Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, a conversation with Greg Krissek, the CEO of Kansas Corn. We'll spend a lot of time talking about ethanol in Kansas and the impact it is having around the country and how soon could we see E15. We'll also have features from Kansas Wheat, Kansas Farm Bureau, and more from Kansas Corn, along with the weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In ag news, as part of National Ag Day, the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture this week released its annual Feeding the Economy report. And the data shows that food and ag industries and their suppliers contribute over $8.6 trillion to the U.S. economy. NASDA CEO Ted McKinney said the report proves the industry's continued strength across the states and around the globe. This year's report shows the U.S. food and ag sector directly supports nearly 23 million jobs, provides $927 billion in wages, and is particularly vital to rural communities around America. Notably, the 2023 report reveals that manufacturing ag products accounts for nearly 1/5 of total manufacturing jobs in the U.S. Now, overall, more than 46 million jobs are supported across the food and agricultural supply chain, increasing nearly 2% since the 2019 report, despite the economic challenges and disruptions associated with the global pandemic. You can go online and find the report at feedingtheeconomy.com. Well, speaking of feeding, Feeding America has announced the launch of Farmers Feed America. The organization says the broad coalition shows that farmers and food banks are united in calling for a strong 2023 farm bill that meets the needs of America's farmers and protects federal nutrition programs. The new nonpartisan coalition comprises farmers, food companies, food retailers, and hunger relief organizations, including Feeding America and the American Farm Bureau Federation. Well, this year's Farm Bill reauthorized process is an opportunity to reflect on innovations that worked during the pandemic and apply those learnings to future food and nutrition policy, according to the organization. The Farmers Feed America Coalition come together to establish shared principles for the next farm bill that will help meet the continued need of communities facing hunger, as well as bolster the nation's food resilience and enhance markets for farmers and ranchers. The coalition urging members of Congress to adopt these principles as they write the 2023 Farm Bill. Greg Krissek from Kansas Corn will join us when we return.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
And joining us now is Greg Krissek, who is the CEO of Kansas Corn. Hi, Greg.
Good afternoon, Ken.
Well, thanks for joining us. Now, let's get a quick update before we talk about kind of our main thing is going to be ethanol. But just a few weeks ago, farmers were at Commodity Classic. Any quick recap of that?
You bet. Combine Classic this year was held in Orlando, Florida. Had a very strong turnout, over 10,000 attendees, and a record number of those were producers, farmers. Great contingent of corn growers there. We had our National Corn Congress that's facilitated by National Corn Growers Association. Our leadership was involved there, as well as our Young Leader Program, Corn Corps attendees. Really took advantage of all of the trade show exhibits and the sessions, the learning sessions that are offered there. So really good event. And next year will be a first time. It'll be held in Houston, Texas. And so, again, a new venue for Combine Classic.
Well, that'll be good. Looking forward to that. Okay. We're talking about ethanol, kind of an update of what's going on. There's been a lot of things in the news, and we're now into spring, Greg, and so we're thinking of summer driving, and we're thinking about E15, and some of us would like to make sure that we have E15 anytime we want it year round.
That's exactly right. And, through the years, as we work with gasoline retailers, they clearly want to offer a product on a consistent basis and not have to change out pumps or labeling or things like that as they move through the year. So very important that we have that consistent product throughout the season. And it's a lower carbon fuel. The consumer is going to benefit from a lower price tag when they fill up with E15, and it performs just as well as E10 in all of our records. So it is the federal EPA has come out and said a program that would take effect in the summer of 2024, which was disappointing to us. Yet there's lots of encouragement now that they, again, this year in 2023 driving season, create an emergency waiver for it, which is what they did in 2022. Don't have that yet, but the ethanol associations and our corn grower associations are continually asking EPA to make that judgment. Even if the real program starts in 24, let's get it started in 23. So there's no change for the retailers and the drivers here when we start driving season.
The supply is there. Go ahead and start it. Especially in these corridor states, kind of the we're in, and we'll talk more about the coast and especially California in just a moment. But again, this has been a huge, just a big boost to corn growers.
It has, and just to make it even more available in the very near future, this last round of what's called grant funding, called HBIP, from the U.S. Department of Agriculture has been announced. They've been notifying, and we think there's at least 21 or more stations in Kansas. Probably Kansas had the largest number of stations in the program this time who are ready to put in E15 and E85 is usually what they put in, sometimes an E30. So those stations are going full bore to implement it right when we're going to hit the summertime. So it just doesn't make sense for EPA not to approve it for this summer.
Talking with Greg Krissek, the CEO of Kansas Corn. Take a quick break, come back with more in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
And our guest is Greg Krissek, the CEO of Kansas Corn. Greg, talking about ethanol. Let's talk about California. Boy, they are utilizing a lot of E85.
They sure are. They're just a ginormous gasoline market in the first place. But interestingly enough, as we have seen around the country, growth in E15, even some places E30. In California, the only other fuel allowed beside E10 is E85. And just recently, California released their numbers that in 2022, there were over 100 million gallons, about 103.5 million gallons of the E85 flex fuel sold. That's up over 66% from 2021. When we have visited, and I can explain a little bit more, the stations that we work with out there, there's a significant price difference. Obviously, in parts of 2022, the price spread was $3 to $4 sometimes, but now it's still, I think, in the neighborhood of $2 spread easily per gallon. And so, as consumers in California have either gotten flex fuel vehicles or are working with some flex fuel conversion kits for their vehicles, they are really going out and buying that fuel. We, Kansas Corn and Nebraska Corn and Missouri Corn, have gone together on a regional program And we help a group, it's called Pearson Fuels, who a number of us have relationships with Pearson Fuels, both on ethanol, somewhat on renewable diesel. They have some interest in a Nebraska ethanol plant, I believe, but it has been growing. They've been growing the number of stations that they have, and so we in the last 2 years, I think it provided help to up to 29 of their stations, and they're up to 300, over 300 stations selling E85 throughout California. By the end of 2023 with our program, we think they'll be at about 360 stations. And we look at the amount of fuel that is sold in one of those stations, because it is E85, goes very quickly. And for Kansas corn producers specifically, we believe in 2021, over 25% of the ethanol produced in Kansas ends up in California. Now, some of that's going into E10, but obviously then it's also going into the E85 as well. So not a market I would have predicted a couple years ago, but really happy about what's happening there.
Very good. All right, Greg, before we wrap it up, maybe most folks know, maybe they don't, that your time about to wrap up of your time as CEO of Kansas Corn, going to maybe shift a little bit. I'm sure you're not going to retire. You're one that would be hard to hold down. So just any reflections you have on your time serving Kansas corn farmers and Kansas agriculture and the renewable industry?
Well, thanks, Ken. In this role, I've been about 9 years, almost a little over to the day. Been a lot of fun. Very much enjoy working on behalf of Kansas corn producers, and then working with the team here of the board and the staff. As you know, we've changed quite a bit in those 9 years. We've grown quite a bit in those 9 years, and between our work with ethanol and the higher blend ethanol stations as part one, and our work with our education program, our STEM, Kansas Corn STEM program, with providing lots of resources to teachers and students throughout the state. Two of the things that I could look at and say, wow, we really got a lot done, but there's a lot more to do, and we'll be handing it off to Josh Rowe here in early May. And I know he will hit the ground running, and the team is well set. So it's going to continue to be fun to watch. And I'm not going totally away, as you say. Still be involved very much in the long time atrazine defense for growers as we farm the way we do here in Kansas. We need that product.
Well, Greg, again, thank you so much for your service to agriculture and to corn growers and the ethanol industry. And boy, any number of things over your career. You and I have known each other for quite a while. So thanks again, and job well done, and appreciate taking the time today to talk to us.
Well, I appreciate those sentiments, Ken. And, now I'll just have more time to come up and visit with you in all over the state. So.
There you go. Very good. All right. Greg Krissek, who is the CEO of Kansas Corn, has joined us. We'll have more coming up in a moment.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Kansas Wheat is proud to announce the launch of the newest broadcast in town, the Wheats on Your Mind podcast. Hosted by Aaron Harris, Kansas Wheat Vice President of Research and Operations, the biweekly podcast will discuss wheat research projects, the latest in domestic and global wheat markets, policy news like tracking the upcoming Farm Bill, wheat crop conditions, management decisions, and more. Wheats on Your Mind is meant to be both educational and entertaining, showcasing the stories and people in the wheat world, Harris said. We're excited for a wide array of audiences. It will reach from millers to consumers and everyone in between. Kansas Wheat will be promoting the individual episodes on the organization's social media channels, but listeners should subscribe so they don't miss any of the excitement. Listeners can tune in wherever they listen to podcasts, including Apple or Spotify. Or check out the podcast website at wheatsonyourmind.com.
After graduating from Kansas State University in 2016, Garrett Holliday became an ag lender at a local bank and bought into the family cattle operation in Jackson County. Today, he and his wife Randy manage 90 fall calving Angus cows. Garrett began serving on the Jackson County Farm Bureau Board in 2018 and has led in various positions, including communication chair and most recently, board president. He engaged in the Jackson County End Hunger campaign, issue surfacing, and vote FBF, in addition to helping facilitate ag education events like the FFA Speech Night, the Kitty Pedal Pull, and the Ag and Water Festival. At the state level, Garrett is a Leadership KFB graduate, has served on the Hay and Forage Committee, attended the YF&R Conference and Day at the State House, and served as a county host for the Big Tent Tour. The Holliday family is driven to continue bridging the gap between agriculture and the youth. By working alongside Kansas Farm Bureau, they hope to get younger generations interested in the agricultural heritage and encourage them to support agriculture.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Hi, this is Bill Johnston with Kansas Corn. Did you realize that corn is used in thousands of things? Yeah, the corn that we grow in these fields to produce these seeds. You know, I have a fake seed here. I want to show you something, that this seed is made up of many parts, has lots of different things in it that we can use for many things that you use every day around the house. And some of those things are obvious because corn is right in the name, like corn oil and cornbread. Corn right there in the name. And then there's other things that corn is not part of its name, but it's in the ingredients if you look at those. For example, this pop has corn syrup in it, and this candy has corn starch in it. But you know, there's thousands of other things that also have corn in it, but the word corn, nowhere on the label. Well, how do I know that there's corn in it then? Well, let's figure it out. I went in my house and picked up 3 things that might have some ingredients taken from corn. Grabbed some deodorant, some hand sanitizer, and some toothpaste. If I look at all of their ingredient lists, I don't see the word corn. So let's talk about how we figure that out. I put some key words on this board that you might look for, and understand there are hundreds of keywords. I just picked out some of the more common ones that you would find. You know, if you see the word caramel or citric acid or stearate, and actually just the letters S-T-E-A-R, it's probably from corn. There are words that start with G-L-Y and malt, M-A-L-T, and dex, D-E-X. Some words that end with certain letters tell you that it's probably from corn, like O-S-E, os, or O-L, like ethanol. You know, how do I know that these words actually are from ingredients of corn? Well, it's because, see, they could get these things from other places, but we grow more corn in the United States than we do anything else. And compared to other things, it's inexpensive. So while they could get these things from other crops and other plants, because corn is readily available and it's relatively inexpensive, more than likely they got these ingredients from corn. Now, if I look at the labels of these ingredients, we'll see if we can find some of these things. Well, on the deodorant, I see sterile. And, oh, here's glycol that happens to start with a G-L-Y and end in O-L. And there's alcohol, another O-L word. You will find these words that probably came from the ingredients of corn in things all around your house. See if you can find some.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Over the years, social media and streaming services have completely changed the way consumers view media content. With this in mind, the Kansas Beef Council has shifted its focus to advertising on these platforms versus traditional television. This change has allowed the checkoff to target specific demographics, which help ensure beef is being promoted in areas with higher populations but less direct access to the beef community. Checkoff-funded advertisements can be seen on such streaming services as ESPN, Roku, and even Disney+. YouTube is another popular streaming service KBC utilizes to reach consumers. As one of the largest streaming services and the second most popular search engine, it has proven beneficial to getting ads about beef in front of consumers. In fact, ads placed by KBC have generated almost 1 million views on the platform. The Kansas Beef Council also uses targeted advertising on popular social media platforms like Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok. These ads can take consumers directly to beef recipes, cooking tips, and beef retailers. They also help KBC connect and share information about beef with younger generations. All these efforts led to more than 1 million page views for kansasbeef.org in 2022.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Good day. I'm Derek Hermish with Pinion. The party is over in more ways than one. From 2009 to 2022, the federal funds effective rate was never more than 2.4%, and it spent the better part of that time frame at less than 0.25%. This week, the Fed raised the effective rate by 0.25%, even as the banking industry is showing signs of stress with recent bankruptcies and buyouts involving some large lenders. The Fed is between a rock and a hard place, as the pace of inflation has not been lowered to an acceptable rate yet either. In any case, interest rates look to remain higher for a longer period of time than what we were accustomed to during the cheap interest time frame before COVID, followed by the free money time frame during COVID. The bill for this party is due, and we are going to pay for it one way or another. What about the commodity party? It's not looking much better after this last month either. Higher interest rates are not conducive to higher commodity prices in most cases, even though there are many other factors at play. In the last month, the managed money fund positions have made a rush for the exit doors on their long grain positions, and even established net short positions in corn and wheat. Grain prices can go up without fund money participation, but it will require a strong fundamental reason. I'm Derek Hermish. Have a good day.
That's our show this week. Be social with us at kansasagreport.net or our social media channels. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on the Kansas Ag Report.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.